Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 11. So in this video, I'm actually going to split it up a little bit different this week. In this video, I'm just going to talk about my reactions to the discussion board from last week, and then also talk a little bit about the career assessment interview coming up. I've already talked about that a little bit, but I wanted to talk about that in a little more depth here. So that's going to be this video. Then I'm going to create another video that's talking about another similar to like the block enrichment, the spiritual approaches to career development. I'm going to share actually a model that I developed for my career counseling work. So I'll share another video about that. So for this video though, I appreciated a lot of the thoughts on planned happenstance. It seemed like a lot of people connected to some of the common threads and common elements of planned happenstance, at least in their own journey in certain ways. Obviously, some in the concerns element or concern side of the discussion board had some major concerns about the approach, and that's totally okay. But some things that I noticed is that sometimes in the concern section, there was a little bit about like, well, what if we're working with a client who doesn't like risk taking? Like, how does planned happenstance work with clients who don't really want to take risks? I think that's a valid, thought and something to consider. I think a lot of career counseling work doesn't necessarily come down to, but a big element of it can be risk taking, risk tolerance. And for some clients, risk aversion. So so how do we help clients when they maybe feel like, okay, I don't like my life setting, it feels really risky to change to another setting, another career, but maybe it'll be better for me, maybe I will be more satisfied with my career path, and then I won't have like a lot of negative influence in my other areas of life. So I think I guess the reaction that I have to what do we do if like maybe a concern with this theory was that, that it doesn't work well for clients who are risk averse, but maybe part of the theory is that it's about learning. The theory is, about learning how to take risks in a manageable way for that specific client. So if the client doesn't like taking risks, that's okay. And maybe they sometimes need to anyways. But our work is to help them kind of craft a way of taking risks that in a way that's manageable, that feels right to them. Maybe it doesn't feel comfortable, obviously, to them, but it's like, I'm willing to because I see the potential for a larger, for better outcomes. So I think sometimes maybe happenstance could be the perfect approach for some clients who appear risk averse. And once again, according to this theory and according to like some of my belief systems, I think risk aversion can change throughout time. Maybe at certain years there's a higher risk tolerance, than other years there's a lower risk tolerance. It doesn't necessarily have to be chronological either. So how we perceive the client, maybe if we assume that they're risk averse and that's where they will always be, I think we should be thoughtful about that. Maybe that's not always the case. There's also some concerns about multiculturalism, about this approach applying to minority populations. I think that's an important consideration. It's actually next week we're going to be addressing multiculturalism in career development work in a lot more depth, and kind of applying career development theory to minority populations. So more to be continued or to be discussed. All right, so I'm going to share my screen now and share a few thoughts on the career assessment interview. I sent the email out about this already, so that has a lot of the info there already, but I just wanted to share just to give a little bit more feedback if people would like that. All right, so sharing my screen. All right, let me get this out. So once again, you can find this by just logging in to Blackboard and going to assignments. I'll just go there first. So assignments, here it is. There's the career assessment interview. So yes, you've all hopefully already selected a volunteer, and you're going to have them do a career assessment. That could be, the 16 personalities, which is similar to the MBTI. It's not the same as the MBTI, but similar. You can have them do like a Holland type assessment, or you could even do something more like the career construction interview, a more qualitative form of assessment. So whatever you choose, you do that assessment with the client, you kind of process and discuss the results with the client. And then the 4 to 6 page summary and analysis of that interview. So I tried to give some page approximations to help out. So the background needs to be a lot shorter than, this assignment's similar to the autobiography in that, in the autobiography, you just did career assessments and applied it to yourself, explored career theory and applied it to yourself. Now we're just doing the exact same for a volunteer. So I wanted to give a little more guidance though, because it seemed like a lot of the background became the bulk of the autobiographies. But for this, make sure that, about 1 page, keep it a little bit more condensed in the background information. Spend more time with applying the assessment results to the volunteer, sharing your reflections of not just providing a summary of what the results said, but here's how we made sense of it together. Here's what we processed. Here's what I was thinking about. Here's what these results could mean for the client. Here's what, it's kind of helping you make sense of, what is the career development path for this volunteer right now, and how can career assessment kind of add some more perspective on that. And then the theoretical understanding of career development. So you'll pick one theory from anything that we've talked about in this class and apply it to the volunteer. So once again, not just summarizing the theory, but brief summary, maybe just a brief summary, just kind of give it some context of what you're going to be referencing, but then thoroughly applying the theory to the client. So for example, if you chose Holland's theory, it's not just talking about, oh, here were the Holland codes that the client scored in the assessment, and I'm talking about those more. There's a lot more to Holland's theory. Holland's theory talks about differentiation, talks about consistency, identity, so just really being thoughtful of the approach. And so just really go into the sharp text and be thorough of, what's the theory that you're choosing, and try to kind of hit most of the bases of what that theory talks about, not just maybe 1 or 2, but just the whole picture. Try to apply the whole picture to the client. And oftentimes theory can give you some insights into, if I were to work with this volunteer, what would next steps be? For example, if you chose social cognitive career theory, maybe the volunteer's self-efficacy, at least from the discussion, it seemed like, it's kind of low right now. If they were to, maybe they want to make a career change, but their self-efficacy, their belief, in themselves to make a positive career shift is low. So how might you go about helping them with that? So that could be part of the discussion of theory as well, kind of through this theoretical lens. How can I help? So yeah, those are some important pieces. I want to briefly look at the rubric. I actually just made some slight updates. I just specified volunteer and the volunteers here. So basically just clarifying that, make sure that there's a clear application of the career assessment to the volunteer, that there's a clear application and comprehensive application for the volunteer's career development. So be sure to look at this. I did add the page limit. Before I didn't put that in the rubric, so I didn't dock any points. This time there will be points docked, for the page limit. So please, stay in that 4 to 6 page range. Okay, that's what I have for this video. So that's just a little bit on, the discussion board and for the bigger paper coming up. If you have questions about the paper, please don't hesitate to reach out. Time is short. It's coming up to be turned in, but I just wanted to give some kind of last minute feedback, just so you can maybe make some, if you've already written a lot, you can make some updates just to make sure that you're thoroughly applying the career assessments and the career theory to the volunteers. So yeah, reach out if you need anything. Thanks.